So, before we begin, if you are going to criticize my videos, do so for the content. Provide evidence that what I state is in error. I will correct it. Your fifis are not evidence. I am well aware that I do not speak well. And as some of you have said, quote, "You sound like an R," end quote. What you are hearing, i.e. my vocals, are an end result of two strokes. While I didn't lose my complete ability to vocalize, I physically cannot form the words I wish to speak, known as dysarthria. I do have a mild form of apraxia. Now, apraxia of speech is a speech sound disorder. Someone with AOS has trouble saying what he or she wants to say correctly and consistently. AOS is a neurological disorder that affects the human brain pathways involved in planning the sequence of movements involved in producing speech. The brain knows what it wants to say, but can't properly plan and sequence the required speech sound movements. Mine is complicated that my face is partially paralyzed. A good example in today's world, think Randy Travis. I, as I said, also have hemiparesis, which makes my breathing a little erratic because my diaphragm's messed up. With that said, I won't be addressing this issue again, and your comments will be made public with your name. I will shame the fuck out of you. Capiche? But anywho, on a better note, welcome back to We Talk. Today we're going to take a look at Chapter 2 of Jillian's book, What is Balancing Life? Now, I had hoped to do a more flowing presentation of the flaws in Jillian's book, but I found that a bit difficult because pretty much every statement is full of misinformation. So it's going to be a little choppy, so bear with me. Onwards and upwards. So many questions, so little time. And I doubt Jillian has the answers. More like she won't answer, as I don't believe she can answer. While she portrays herself as a deep thinker, she does not think deep enough. She'll just block you. Or, as she recently stated, quote,
"When you contradict yourself, it means you're taking into account every single person's perspective. When you don't contradict yourself, it means you're only standing on one side of the equation and you're not considering the other side of the equation."
End quote. I really don't know what that means, but it sounds like Jillian will say whatever it takes to make a book sell. She doesn't know the answers to the questions, and contradiction is her so-called out. That's how she weasels out of things. And if you read closely, she will play both sides of the coin at the same time. So to begin Chapter 2, she starts with this, quote,
"The most profound revelation around the Jilly Juice protocol is how to balance out your body, mind, and spirit within an environment constantly fluctuating."
Now, being that Jillian presents Jilly Juice and the rhetoric she surrounds it with as religious, as a religious belief, revelation, when applied to religion, means something communicated immediately from God to man. It is revelation to the first person only, and hearsay to every other, and, consequently, it is a contradiction in terms and ideas to call anything a revelation that comes to us at second hand, either verbally or in writing. Revelation is necessarily limited to the first communication. And that's from Thomas Paine, Age of Reason, 1794. So, what Jillian believes she is receiving from whatever, some sort of higher power, is of no consequence to us. More so, she has no evidence to support her claims or to support her assertions. It's as if she grabbed them from thin air, or, in her case, pulled them out of her ass. Continuing with the beginning of chapter 2, she then lets her chemophobia flag fly high. Now, whether chemophobia is the right label, that's either here nor there. What she states is this, quote,
I was taught to avoid poisons, pathogens, toxins, and chemicals throughout my entire life. Who determines what is poisonous and pathogenic? We have government agencies like the FDA applying principles to determine what is relatively safe to consume for the general population. But individuals must determine what is appropriate for their own body, mind, and spirit.
Quote. Although, I don't think Jillian really understands what the role of the FDA is in regards to assuring the safety of our nation's food supply or the safety and efficacy of pharmaceuticals. She's just spouting nonsense. And I would be really curious as to what principles Jillian is speaking to that the FDA applies. From my understanding, they use something called science. I don't know. Could be wrong. And I think the big whopper in this one for me, I don't really understand how she can state that, quote, individuals must determine what is appropriate when currently the general population won't even wear a simple mask to diminish the spread of COVID-19. In other words, basically, we have consensus science that leans towards wearing a mask in public. Yes, I know there's debate either way, but overall, it's leaning towards wearing a mask. But yet, she rails against such measures. She actively encourages her minions to do the same. For instance, she posted a couple of days ago, quote,
I'm going to be shopping at Aldi's and GFS from now on. I will not be shopping at Walmart or Starbucks ever again, and if I do, it will be online or curbside delivery. And I will destroy the brick and mortar mom and pop shops as well. Blah, 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 blah.
So, yeah, okay. And by the way, utilizing online services or curbside pickup is not destroying brick and mortar shops. Sorry to say. Trust me, I work at one. And then she throws this one. Basically, life is not biodiversity. But biodiversity is part of life. And Jillian's own citation explains as much, which she quotes in her book.
The term biodiversity, from biological diversity, refers to the variety of life on Earth at all its levels, from genes to ecosystems, and can encompass the evolutionary, ecological, and cultural processes that sustain life.
Okay, key phrases. The variety of life. And can encompass the evolutionary, ecological, and cultural processes that sustain life. It does not say biodiversity is life. I'm not sure how to make that any simpler as life is basically the condition that distinguishes organisms from inorganic objects and dead organisms. That's it. And then she goes on to describe the microbiome, or beginning to describe. She writes, quote,
Viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, parasites, and proteins make up all of biodiversity and your microbiome. Mother Nature keeps a balance of all biodiversity according to her intentions. Not only are animals, insects, and plants made up of viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, parasites, and proteins, but the human microbiome is also made up of them as well.
Now, there's a slight problem with that descriptor that Jillian assigns to the microbiome. She defines or describes the microbiome incorrectly. Simply put, the microbiome is the genetic material of all the microbes, i.e., bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and viruses that live on or inside the human body. Notice, no proteins. So basically, again, Jillian is playing fast and loose with her terminology. She's inserting little weasel words, if you can call them that. And I really don't know what she means by Mother Nature. Also, not all animals have microbiomes. Quote, it is often taken for granted that all animals host and depend upon a microbiome. Yet this has only been shown for a small proportion of species. We propose, the authors of the study I'm citing, that animals span a continuum of reliance, microbial symbionts. And there's another really good article for introductory called The Case of the Missing Bacteria that's put out by the Atlantic, and that'll be in the show notes. But this gets worse. Okay, we're barely 4 pages into her book. Quote,
To go a bit deeper, humans are also made up of fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals that also must work symbiotically with the environment or elements on the periodic tables and other life forms, also known as biodiversity.
end quote. This is wrong on so many levels. Okay, the 4 categories that she listed are items or macronutrients, whatever, how you want to phrase it. Those are things that we need to consume in the foods that we eat. The body then converts these nutrients into usable forms. And Jillian's use of the word symbiotically is so far off into left field it's not even funny, because symbiosis is the biological association of 2 or more species. Amino acids, fatty acids, prohormones, and minerals are not living entities. They cannot form symbiotic relationships. So she doesn't even use terms correctly, period. And to exemplify what I mean, she recently posted this screenshot, and contrary to her belief, words do have meaning. And the sciences, very specific meaning.
Somebody asked me where I got my information from. All from PubMed, mainstream media, and good old studying the syntax of the English language.
End quote. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure how studying the rules the principles and the processes that govern the structure of a sentence helps in explaining Jilly Juice and how it does what she says it does. Basically, making up your own word definitions and misrepresenting the article contents as she does, that's not how things work. Explosive diarrhea is just that. Calling it waterfalls and claiming the intention is different doesn't change the fact that it's explosive diarrhea. But her crazy takes a flying leap as she then states immunity equals death. And this is on a Facebook post, but it relates to her redefining things. Funny, that's not how science defines immunity. In biology, immunity is the balanced state of organisms having adequate biological defenses to fight infection, disease, or other unwanted biological invasions, while having adequate tolerance to avoid allergies and autoimmune disease. Then she claims she's figured out her own peer review. And no, there's a specific method to peer review. So, as I said, we're not 4 pages, even 4 pages into our book. But do you see the problem we are going to run into? As I stated in the beginning, every single statement made by Jillian is going to need to be fact-checked for accuracy. Nothing this woman states should be accepted at face value. This explains why my replies, or my reactions to a lot of her information, is so long. I call it the 10-to-1 ratio. For every page of Drek, it takes me 10 pages to debunk or correct, because 99% of the time I have to go back to the beginning and explain the basics. And I do that for 2 reasons. One, I'm not going to assume everybody is on the same level in science that I am, not that I'm that far, and it just helps reinforce that she's so very wrong. While it can be tedious, I actually do enjoy doing it, especially if my efforts help keep another from harm. So I'm going to end it there because I want to keep these kind of short just for sanity's sake. There's so much wrong with this chapter that I could go on. Probably it'll be close to 3 hours just on chapter 2. So up next we'll do part 2 of chapter 2. I'm figuring 4 parts. So y'all have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.